Should you get the Sony a7 IV this year? So I've had the Sony a7 IV since 2021, since it first came out, and I've used it for pretty much everything as my travel camera, for corporate videos, product videos, photography, everything. And it's been a really great camera and I've really been enjoying using it. Each time a new camera has come out, I've actually considered upgrading my Sony a7 IV. So I've considered the Sony FX2, the A1 Mark II, the A9, the Lumix S9, Lumix S1 Mark II, and most recently the Nikon ZR. But every single time I think about it, I ask myself the question, do I really need to upgrade right now? And so far the answer's been no, or at least not quite yet. So why didn't I pull the trigger each time? Was it just lensing? Was it just the price? Or was it just because I didn't actually really need to get one of these cameras? Should I stand or should I sit? Maybe I'll stand. Am I going to deliver a crappier product if I don't get these cameras? The answer for me was no. There was no urgency or direct need for me to do that. And I didn't feel that I should buy something new just because it's all new and shiny. So there's no immediate rush for me, and I just felt that I could still deliver what I was delivering with the current equipment that I have. And I just needed to be reminded to not fall in the trap of gas or gear acquisition syndrome, which I know a lot of us in this space sort of fall into that quite a lot because it's exciting whenever something new comes out. But that could also be very dangerous. And in today's economy, to be honest, I don't think you need to be upgrading every year. And yeah, it comes with its disadvantages, and sometimes I've been a little bit frustrated at its limitations. For example, it does not do 4K at 120 frames per second and 4K at 60 frames per second. It does it with a 1.5 times crop. So that means if I'm looking at filming, for example, a wider sort of angle of view at 4K 60, I have to really get a very wide lens to be able to still keep that, otherwise it crops in 1.5 times. There is also a ton of rolling shutter, but in my work, it doesn't really affect me too much. I've honestly been really enjoying shooting with more vintage equipment like camcorders, vintage lenses. As you can see from some of these clips in this video, this is being shot with a camcorder. That's another reason why too I've been enjoying more like the more vintagey sort of nostalgic vibe too recently. Start thinking about the just enough moment where this camera is still able to do all the things that I want it to do, and I'm still able to get the gigs that I'm getting and deliver the product that I need to deliver. And I'm able to get photography and video gigs with this camera. It's got a viewfinder. I can attach a speed light to it, connect it to a strobe. For video work, it has a full-size HDMI port, 10-bit 422 video. So it does everything that I need it to do. So where does this camera fall short? Well, let's put it this way. I think when this camera first came out, I think it was way ahead of its time. It had a ton of features that have aged very well over the years. When it came out in 2021, I think it had a bunch of features that were very future-proof. In my opinion, a lot of these specs are still relevant today, and one thing that Sony has done very well with this camera is that they've kept up with consistent firmware updates. And right now they're all the way to firmware version 6 or 6.01, and I think that's the latest one. Actually, let me check. Sony a7 IV firmware update version 6.01. They even changed the user interface and how it looks, and that interface now rotates whenever you're looking at it vertically versus horizontally, which is pretty neat. They've added focus bracketing and a lot of quality of life improvement to this camera. Now, whether that will continue moving forward, I am doubtful, just because it is becoming now like a 5-year-old camera, and I'm sure Sony will probably start to shift focus on firmware updates on cameras that are a little newer than this one and potentially future new camera releases. I am not 100% sure of that. We might be surprised in a good way if they do release another firmware update. But I do think they're probably giving us all they can with this camera.
But this does not mean that the A7 IV is not a good contender in 2026. You can get this camera with all of its features for about $2,400 brand new, and even cheaper on the used market.
Do you upgrade your phone every year when a new phone comes out? I personally do not. I used the iPhone 11 for 4 or 5 years, and I finally was forced to upgrade because the battery was just dying very quickly. So late last year, I upgraded my iPhone to the iPhone 14, and that was November 2025. And the reason why I did that was because it was enough for the stuff that I needed to do. And I don't need the latest or the greatest when it comes to my phone. And the amount of money I save by getting an older phone allows me to redirect that money to other gear that can improve my work. There's this cycle that can become vicious over time of always chasing what's new, even though you don't really need it. The upgrade costs you money, and while you can potentially make it back, it is also fair to ask yourself whether you're able to do your current job and deliver the current quality of products with the equipment that you have without having to always upgrade to the latest and the newest.
And I'm not trying to say that you shouldn't look at new equipment or be excited about new gear. I do review new stuff here on this channel as well, but what I'm trying to say is that look at this new stuff, check out all the specs, figure out if it's something that you actually need, if it's actually that will actually improve your videos, or if it's just something that you want because it's all brand new and shiny. So this is something that I always keep in mind when I decide when to buy new equipment.
A couple of years ago, I worked with a very established photographer who's done a ton of work in commercial, and he's photographed celebrities and the like. And at that time, I asked him what kind of camera he was using. And he told me he was using the Canon 5D Mark IV. And at the time, that was already a 6 to 7 year old camera. And that just goes to say that it's not really about the camera you have, but it's about the quality, the product that you deliver. It's not about getting the latest and greatest, but it's more about refining your skill, refining your lighting, refining your storytelling. The cycle of always chasing and getting the latest camera body can be a little bit exhausting. I definitely still like looking at new cameras, new tech, and see what's new with them, potentially try them out and potentially review those cameras. But in my opinion, you don't always have to upgrade if you don't have to. Sometimes the upgrade would have cost you not just money, but also perhaps new lenses if you're switching systems and just relearning your new camera or developing new workflows for that camera. That is also time spent on something that you might not have spent the time on, if that makes sense. So the question I want to pose to you today is, are my videos actually going to improve with this new camera, or am I just going to be delivering the same videos but with the label that it was shot on the latest and greatest camera? So if you're someone who's starting out, maybe you're upgrading from an APS-C camera and need a full frame, and you don't have too much to spend because you also want to buy lenses and all that like, then the A7 IV might be still a good choice. You can get a brand new one for about $2,400 on the used market and get it for much less. And if you are someone who already owns a full frame camera and you really need to switch or upgrade, then there are probably other cameras that you could consider away from its Sony A7 IV. If you currently have the Sony A7 IV though, then that's where I really challenge you to think about what you really need. Do you really need a brand new body, or is it different kinds of lenses, or is it other kind of equipment, maybe better lighting and that kind of stuff? Now, the big answer is whether I'm keeping this camera currently is, I don't know. I'm still using this as of right now, and in the foreseeable future, I'm still probably gonna use this camera until I see something else that grabs my attention. I do feel that I've come to the time when I'm due for an upgrade. I've been using this for 5 years already, but I'm still on the fence on whether I should switch systems entirely again, because I've done this before, or just stick with my current camera brand so I can reuse all those lenses and not have to waste too much time and effort and money on swapping my entire system. I'll keep you posted, and if you want to find out whether I end up upgrading to anything new this year, subscribe if you haven't already. But let me know in the comments below though, if you are still shooting with the Sony a7 IV and your thoughts on whether you're still going to keep it this year or if you're planning to upgrade to something else. Let me know, and I would love to hear what your plans are for your own Sony a7 IV. So that's it. If you're still around, here are a couple more videos you could watch next, and I'll see you there.